Hi friends, I wanted to go over a couple of the tools you can use to make your renderings look a little bit more realistic for your final export, the images that I'd like you to see you export from this model, the like scenic renderings, okay? So we're gonna start by changing up some things like the background, right? Because if you orbit around Tim's model here, there's like a green field that we're sitting in with a sky above it. And most theaters or theater renderings wouldn't have those things in the background. So we're going to go ahead and change our background settings. And that is in styles over here. So if you go to this simple style choice, first you can like flip through a bunch of different style choices if you want to, right? And like they have their own like basic defaults set up for them. We're going to go to where it says simple style and we're going to edit it. I'm going to change it to my name. You should change it to your name. And then I'm going to change some of these settings in here. So one of them is I'm going to turn off edges. And that already sort of helps clear up some of the extra lines that I don't want to see in my final rendering. I can also either turn profiles down to 1, and that makes those lines thinner, right? See the difference there? So that you still have those outlines if you want them. Or in my case, I'm actually going to turn them off completely. So I don't see any of the like outlines around the objects. I just let the objects stand alone in the space, and that makes them look more realistic, okay? So then I'm going to scroll down here. Face settings, these are your default colors. We don't need to worry about that right now. If you were starting from scratch and you wanted to set up your style, you could use these default colors to sort of help you automatically be creating things in the palette that you want. I am going to leave shaded textures, right? Because that means that I'll see my textures like my newspapers and my floor color situation. And then I'm going to change the background on the sky. First, I'm just going to turn the sky off. There's no sky. And I'm going to change the background color to like almost like not black, but like an almost black, a very dark gray, okay? And that gives it more of a neutral space outside, okay? And then I have to click done, otherwise it won't remember all of these things that I wanted. The other thing I want to do is I want to turn off my axes, right? I don't actually want to see a big blue, green, and red line all in the middle of everything. And I can do that in the style. That's one of the options that I have if I were to actually keep scrolling all the way to the bottom, because it's under modeling settings. And if you scroll all the way down through all of the modeling settings, you can turn off those axes. And so now I don't see those lines either when I'm looking at my model, and I can have a closer idea of what it'll look like in the rendering. I don't think that the rendering would actually export those, but just for me, so that I know visually I'm matching up with what I want it to look like. That's something that I generally do. Okay. I say that like I do SketchUp models all the time. That's not real. Okay, so that's step 1, just setting your styles up to get you a cleaner final model, okay? And so then the other thing I want to show you is the scenes tool. And the scenes tool is, let me just close that. The scenes tool right here, it'll actually open up like this. And that is under this little movie clapper, right? So the scenes tool basically lets you save locations when you're in your model, right? So I could be like, where I actually want to be looking from is like the second row of the audience, right? Would never watch the play from out here, but I might watch it from like the second row of the audience. So I'm going to come over here into this tab, and I'm going to grab this little person, and it's kind of like the Street View guy in Google Maps, where you can just kind of drop yourself into a place. Okay, so it did that. It dropped me into this place. I'm actually going to hide that because it doesn't show the whole width of the scene right now. And once it drops you into that place, you turn into an eyeball. And that eyeball lets you look around and figure out what the field of view is as you look at that place, right? And then I do feel like I'm still kind of floating up in the air, and that's probably because my feet are standing on top of that chair, right? Instead of being on the ground below it. And in order to get down into the model where I want to, I use this foots tool. I don't know what it's actually called. And I hold down shift, because it says here down at the bottom, shift, move vertically or sideways, right? So if I hold down shift, now I can fly up or down, right? And that lets me kind of sit down into the chairs, right? So this is what it would look like if I were actually sitting in the audience at this play, okay? So this is the kind of rendering that I would show the director for them to get that understanding of what the set looks like from the perspective of the audience, yeah? So once you like the way it looks, like once you're like, this is a good look, I like this rendering, this is gonna be great, what you'll do is you'll click this plus button. That allows you to add a scene. And what a scene is it's just like a screenshot of that place, right? So this is just called scene 1. And if I wanted to be like scene 1, center section of the seats or whatever, I could change the name of it. I don't need to right now. Once you have a scene, the neat thing is that you can jump back to that location, right? So if I were like, okay, so like this is cool. I think I want to do another view of the set from like sitting in one of the side sections. I'm going to go get my feet and I'm going to just kind of like walk over here. Walk over here. No, please, can I walk over here? It's not having it. Click and drag to walk. I'm trying to, man. It doesn't want to. I'm going to grab that little human then. Person, will you please stand here? And then look at the set. Right? This is like, okay, it's not great because I feel like I'm too close, but if I zoom out a little bit, I get stuck in a wall, you know? You know how it goes. You can sort of get around that with the field of view sometimes, but sort of not. Or you can try the other side. Let's try the other side and see if it's any better. Let's jump over here and then look at the set from the other way. Eyeball, 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 eyeball. Yeah, that's a little better, right? I can kind of get that perspective on the set. And I may want to just kind of zoom out a little bit. No big deal, right? And I can sort of go until I run into a wall and then come back in, you know? And I can then like be like, oh, here's what it feels like to sit on the side section, right? I'll save this now as a scene. It takes a minute. Okay, so that's scene 2. And then let's say I want like a wide view, like a wide perspective, you know, from kind of far away that just includes the whole situation, you know? And this is a case where you get like real weird effects by playing with the field of view situation, right? But let's say that's kind of where I want to be, right? Where I can see the whole set kind of from above, from a little further away. As if I'm kind of looking down into a model box. And we'll save that as scene 3. Once you have all those scenes set up, you have a couple of options now, right? One of them is that if you just click on the scenes, it like flies from scene to scene, which is kind of neat, right? And then you fly back out again. So that's convenient. The other thing you'll discover, right? And like this scene 3 is like not great, right? Because the model's kind of at the bottom. Maybe I'll do something like that. Get it kind of centered in the look. New scene 3. You can delete old scene 3. It'll make it scene 4, right? But I can delete old scene 3 with my trash can button. Yes, I do. Please delete scene 3. There we go. Hi, scene 4. Okay, cool. So the other thing that this lets me do is very easily export those images. So I can go to File, Direct Download, PNG, and it'll ask me, what scene do you want? And it'll let me just pick which one of those scenes I'd like to export. And if, for example, this one, I'm going to use it as an image in like my PDF or something like that, or in a Google Slides, I might even click transparent background, and then I would get everything sort of separate with no background behind it. So I could just sort of float it onto a Google Slides. The other thing maybe I would do is like delete the chair who's chilling out here. I might put my figure, my actor person on the set so that we can see what a person looks like in terms of scale next to all this stuff. You know, the usual stuff. Be an artist. It's going to be great. And then you export that as PNG. And it will save it for you. So that is my quick tutorial. about setting up scenes and exporting renderings from SketchUp. Thanks, friends. Let me know if you have questions, and I'll talk to you guys later.